who basically is constitutionally oriented is going to be happy to have, which is basically the right to keep and bear arms is a protected right that goes back with great legal scholarly study. Okay? So these are a couple things that you can use to help you defend. Okay? We need to understand that at the beginning of every one of these laws, there is an enabling clause that basically says how the law shall be brought into being. And there is an argument that says, okay, that the law that is presently here today is based on some law in the past, okay? And almost on every one of these constitutions, all the way up through our history, through the Articles of Confederation, through the U.S. Constitution, through various state constitutions, they'll have an enabling law in the beginning. And of course, the enabling law just allows them to bring their version of the Constitution of what rights are there today. That the rights that were had before are carried on, plus are further delineated by this Constitution. But at no time do they have a right to abridge the previous document. Now, going all the way back to the Magna Carta, you can see the decisions where it comes down. The Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the United States Constitution, the Virginia Acts of Concession, the Northwest Ordinance, the Northwest Territorial Government, the Northwest Territorial Division, Indiana, the Indiana-Michigan Territorial Division, the Enabling Acts, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you today. The Michigan Organization and Submitting Alternatives, and the Michigan Assent to Condition of Admission. And then the state of Michigan became a state in 1837. Now this is just from my area, so I'm trying to give you an example. Then we have a Constitution of 1835, we have a Constitution of 1850, we have a Constitution of 1908, we have a Constitution of 1963. Every time one of these constitutions comes by, the enabling acts in the beginning of it state that everything that was before guaranteed is brought forward. Okay? So everything that is before is brought forward and carried forward, and if anything, it's supposed to be made stronger. Okay? It's never made weaker, it's made stronger or it's equal to. So all of the rights brought forward are carried all the way back from the Magna Carta as a line of succession. So this is how you historically review trends and where, what, and how it comes from and how authorities are established in law. Okay? Now, the important thing to understand is that we are going to cover procedures. We are back to our normal procedure here. We have our court cases here. We are going to start giving you examples of court cases as we go, and we're going to show you how you can exercise rights. Now, one of the first cases that we are going to bring is basically the right to travel. All right. Now, there's a lot of people that are interested in this particular issue, and license plates and driver's licenses and all this, and you have a lot of programming that's problematic from this, and you have a lot of people that are looking to argue. So we want to share some basic arguments with you. We're going to claim a First Amendment right to travel, and we're going to claim also a Fifth Amendment that's guaranteed under the Fifth Amendment of due process and equal protection under the law. All right? Now, we come down, we looked up in our state constitution, and this is our Constitution, and basically we have protected a right to travel. Okay? The freedom to travel is a fundamental right that should be unlimited by statutes, rules, or regulations which unreasonably burden or restrict movement. Okay? Now then, a law which substantially affects or penalizes the exercise of the right to travel may be justified only by a compelling state interest and must be tailored carefully to avoid unnecessary infringement on the right. Okay? Now, when we come down here, we start reading some of these arguments. You'll notice these little letters here that say, freedom to travel throughout the United States has long been recognized as a basic right under the Federal Constitution. See Note 54. Everybody see this little Note 54 here? Again, we're going to take this Note 54. We're going to come down here. And the very first case that we have is Shapiro versus Thompson. This is recorded at 394. That's volume 394. U.S., page 618. I just happen to have a copy of the case here. And this is Shapiro versus Thompson. Okay, now the beginning of the case, all right, pull that one up there. The beginning of the case, they're talking about the purpose of inhibiting migration by needy persons into a state is constitutionally impermissible. All right? All citizens must be free to travel throughout the United States uninhibited by statutes, rules, or regulations which unreasonably burden or restrict this movement. All right? If a law has no other purpose than to chill assertions of constitutional rights by penalizing those who choose to exercise them, it is patently unconstitutional. All right, does everybody pick up on the gist of the argument here? Equal Protection Clause prohibits apportionment of state services according to part tax contributions of its citizens. Any classification which serves to penalize the exercise of a right of interstate travel unless shown to be necessary to promote a compelling government interest is unconstitutional. Okay? Now, that's clearly established. Now, we go into the case, we come to find out, it says that the right finds no explicit mention in the Constitution. This is what I was trying to tell you. You got to use a little bit of wisdom. You read between the lines. In other words, what is your right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? What does it mean to you? Think about it. You know, you can look at the exact words. The right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Ducky, what's that mean? I have no idea. Well, I'm telling you to start having an idea. Because when you have an idea, they got to listen. So you have an idea and you say, I have a right to travel freely and unencumbered, right? Now, that a right so elementary was conceived from the beginning. All right? They're talking about the right to travel. Okay? That a right was so elementary was conceived from the beginning to be necessary concomitant of the stronger union the Constitution created. In any event, freedom to travel throughout the United States has long been recognized as a basic right under the Constitution. We've established that the right is clearly there. So you were right. You had a feeling that you had a right to travel, and you were right. There is such a right there. Okay? One of the ways you could find arguments on that would be to go into the Federal Digest at the local library. Go down by your Supreme Court cases. There'll be a set of red books called the Federal Digest right next to the Shepard citations. You look up the book called Words and Phrases. And in the book Words and Phrases, you ask for the right to travel. It'll give you every Supreme Court case that has anything to do with the right to travel. Okay? One of the leading cases is this case, Shapiro versus Thompson, that it's such a basic right it doesn't even need to be mentioned. Okay? Now, it is important that you be able to back your arguments up. In other words, it's one thing to pick the argument up. Now, here we go. In moving from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, they were exercising their constitutional right, and any classification which penalizes the exercise of the right, unless shown to be necessary to promote a compelling government interest, is unconstitutional. All right? Now, the reality was they exercised their right to timely travel. All right? And the state didn't want to allow that. All right? Now, let's flip back here. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. First of all, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, right? We established that. Who said so? Marbury versus Madison, 5 U.S. 137, 1803. The Constitution of these United States is the supreme law of the land. Any law in conflict is null and void of law. Now, we know that the Constitution is supreme. We know that the right is clearly established in Shapiro versus Thompson. Can a state, arbitrarily and erroneously, convert a secured liberty, in this case the right to travel freely and unencumbered, into a privilege and issue a license and a fee for it? Obviously, we have decided that in Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, clearly, no state may convert a secured liberty into a privilege. Now, does everybody see how we plug that in? Just like on your computer, you fill in the blanks. Okay? You have the court case. It says no state can convert the liberty into a privilege and issue a license and a fee for it. Well, what right are we talking about? The right to travel freely and unencumbered. So you plug that in. So does the state have a right to require you to have a license for the exercise of that right? No. Does everybody see that? Now, what happens if the state requires you to have the license? Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, Alabama. You can ignore the license and engage in the right with impunity. That means they can't punish you. Now, what happens if they pull you over? They give you the ticket. Well, you're going to go to court and you're going to fight it. You're going to file a brief. We're going to show you how to do that at a later time. We'll show you exactly what to put down there. But these are the cases you're going to be putting down on your memorandum of law as to why you have a reason to feel that you're right. First, that your constitutional right is superior to any law that they would put down.